Hello and a massive, big warm welcome to this week's edition of the Soul Sync podcast. Now, if this is your first time clicking on the Soul Sync, firstly, a big welcome to you. You might be wondering what it's all about. Well, let me tell you. We ask the questions that matter and we dive deep into personal growth, spirituality, mediumship, the universe more generally, healing and trauma, near-death experiences, the law of attraction, meditation, chakras. Honestly, the list really is endless, but it's all designed to nourish your soul and illuminate your path forward. Now, in this week's edition, we're speaking to Charlie Kelly. Now, the first time I came across Charlie was on his YouTube channel because, as you will know by now, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I've been trying to fill the spirit world and I'm on my own journey of mediumship. And Charlie's videos I came across and his way of explaining things really resonated with me, and he's got so many great instructional videos on everything to do with how to connect with the spirit world, his experiences, lots of different things. So that's the first time I came across Charlie. But if you don't know him, so Charlie Kelly is not your average medium. He's a seasoned professional whose work has taken him across continents from Italy to Brazil, Portugal to Switzerland, Spain to the USA, with more countries on the horizon for Charlie all the time. Charlie's known for his refreshing approach to working with the spirit world. Charlie brings a unique blend of fun, accuracy, and emotion to his demonstrations and teachings. So, whether you're a seasoned spiritual enthusiast or new to the world of mediumship, Charlie's presentations promise to enlighten and inspire. Through his workshops, mentorships, and his engaging YouTube channel, Charlie shares his wisdom and insights, leaving no doubt that death is not the end, but merely a transition. I love Charlie Kelly. I love this conversation, and I think you're really gonna love it too. Enjoy! So, Charlie, firstly, a massive warm welcome to the Soul Sync podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Do you know what? I have been so excited to talk to you because I first came across your videos about a year ago, and I often find myself watching them at about 10:30 at night is my optimum time. But that day, do you know what? For anyone that hasn't, first of all, come across Charlie Kelly, go onto YouTube, because if you're interested in mediumship, the videos are just absolutely incredible. But first of all, I wanted to ask you, Charlie, how did you even come to get into mediumship?
To get into mediumship was
what was your journey?
It wasn't. I never wanted to read. I never wanted to demonstrate, and I never wanted to teach. I lost my sister at a young age. She was 18 and I was 20. And it was more about where is she? What's happened? You know, like you never question God, do you? When you don't need a God, you never look for it. You never look for it. And I found myself looking for it. I need answers. Where is she? Where's she gone? And that sparks like a journey of more like getting my own evidence that there is something else, you know. I was really skeptical. So
what was your first, okay, I believe in the spirit world now, sort of moment for you?
It was about 8 months in, and I had been to my local spiritual church and I didn't like it. It wasn't.
Why?
I was judged quite quickly as I went in. So I went in dressed exactly as I am today, actually. I had a beanie hat on, probably one very much like this, a hoodie and, Air Max trainers, Air Max tracksuit bottoms, and just
There's nothing wrong with that, Charlie.
No,
that sounds quite fashionable to me.
I walked in and everyone kind of gravitated towards me, and they were like, "Oh, we think you're in the wrong place." And I was like, "No, that ain't this where like clairvoyance are?" Because I had no clue. And they said yeah, and then it just felt like everyone was staring at me for the duration of the event. That I went and left, and I never went back for probably 6 months, and then it built up again, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go again, you know. And it was about the 8th month. I was doing something, and I was seeing, I don't know, a medium or something like that. It may have been like a little class or something. It feels forever ago now. And they were doing psychometry, and I had no idea what psychometry was. I had no clue about anything, to be fair. And they asked for an item of someone that had passed. And the only item I had, I've got one photograph of my sister. I've got one ring of my sister, and that's it. I've got nothing else. And I had the ring beside the photo. And I thought I'll just grab the ring and I'll take this psychometry event, and see what happens, and I went to get the ring. The ring had gone, and I was like, "Oh my God!" So,
oh no!
Yeah, I was devastated, and I wasn't like sobbing, but I was really upset.
Of course.
And so I knew where it was and where it should have been. And I emptied the drawers, and I moved the chest of drawers out the way. I lifted the bed, and after 10 minutes of this, it looked like my home had been ransacked. Like it was like, oh my God. And I don't know why I did it. I have no idea why anyone does it, but I remember talking to the ceiling, as though that's where they are, like above us in some weird kind of way.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense.
I said out loud, if you've got that, I need it back. It's not funny. I'm worried. And it materialized on my leg.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. It is real. That is real then. And in that moment, I was like, fine, you've done it. I'll do it. I'll dedicate the rest of my life to showing the world that you're still there. I'll do that. And in that moment, I felt it like a switch, like my life is about to change. And then I went all out. I absorbed as much as I could, to show the world that there is a spirit world, that they're not really gone. And that was the moment it started.
And how did you start developing? And it's funny you say about the spiritualist church, because I had a very similar experience the first time I went. I felt that everyone was looking at me. And actually, the first ever time I sat in a circle, I didn't understand what I was meant to do. And they got to me and said, "What have you got?" And I said, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what I'm meant to have. So how did you talk us through a bit about your journey of development and how you learned?
Well, my journey actually started when I lost vision in this eye, through a work accident. I lost, I should have died. I didn't die. And I'm laying on a bed for 3 months and,
Wow.
trying to get my eye fixed. And after that, was a very frustrating period in my life, because I'd walk into doors and walls, and I remember saying to the doctor, because I had to have loads of checkups about my eye, because they saved it, they shouldn't have saved it, and we got to check it. And I said, like, the door thing's doing me head in. I keep like giving myself black eyes, and and they were like, well, you need spatial awareness. And I was like, well, what offers spatial awareness? And they were like, martial arts. And I was like, oh, okay. So I Googled like local martial arts guys, and there was an old man, a couple of towns away. He had his own dojo and he was doing it. And he was showing me energy and how someone of my build and my frame can hit something like with body entry level, so I can double my energy. And so I got into it. I got really into it, and I walked in one day, and he had like 8 bricks, and he was hitting the first brick, and the 4th one exploded. And I was like, "Oh, how'd you do that? How'd you do that?" and he was explaining. It was like an old Bruce Lee movie or something. He was like, energy flows like water. And you've got to let it flow through the bricks, and think of the brick and the brick will explode, and so on and so forth.
Did you manage to make a brick explode?
In the end I did. Yeah, it took a while. But just before I did that, I was learning to move me energy and move like Tai Chi or something like that. It was all this energy movement. And I was aware of a lady at the end. Now, to me, she was as real as you are. And she was just staring at me. And I was like, I said to my sensei, who's that? And he was like, who's what? And I was like, the lady. And he's like, there is no lady. And I was like, are you joking? Like, and a very, very quick description of the lady that stood there. And I'm pointing at her, like, as real as you are. And I turned to look at him and he was like, are you all right? And I turned around, she had gone. And I was like, oh no, I've lost my mind, you know? So I went straight to the hospital. I was like, I've got a tumor or something. You know, like I remember booking in, like I've lost my mind. I'm seeing people that aren't there, and like I think I've got a tumor. So with credit to them, they did actually do checks like MRIs and all that kind of stuff for me. And they were like, no, clean bill of health. And I was like, oh,
I can imagine it was even more confusing once you got the all clear.
yeah.
You didn't know what was going on.
What is that? What is going on? And that kind of tied in with like going to the spiritual church and having not such a great experience there. And then I was at Tesco in my hometown, and a woman walks up to me, a really random situation. I got out of the car. And she said to me, "Oh, you're one of those people." And I was like, "What do you mean? That's a bit rude." You know, and she was like, "Oh, you see the other people, don't you?" And I was like, "What other people?" And she went, "Oh, my apologies. I thought you knew." And I was like, "What?" So, and she left, and I was like, "What on earth is that about? Like, what a weirdo." And then I met another lady via a friend of a friend. And they were like doing spiritual stuff. I had no idea. And they were like, oh, you should come along to Circle. And I was like, oh, where is it? I can't be seen in my hometown doing things like that, you know. So
the Tesco experience scarred you. You were worried then that it'd be Aldi next.
But I was worried that my friends would know or see me go into these centres, or I was really like in the closet with it, like really bad.
Well, it is a bit like that, and
Yeah.
You sort of feel even I've sort of felt, God, you know, keep it on because you don't know.
You don't know how they're going to react.
You don't know what people's belief systems are, and it's a very big thing. It's you know, it can change someone's whole worldview.
My whole reality has changed, and so like it was so like big the change that not everyone's part of that, are they? So I was very secretive about it initially, and I had to drive maybe 35 minutes away to this place which ended up being like a little spiritual church circle kind of thing. And I done what everyone else does, you know. I'm putting roots in the ground, I'm protecting myself in bright white lights and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like listening to the meditation and the experiences that they were having. And I was just like, none of this is happening for me. These people are just weird. I'd done that for about 3 weeks, I think. And I would go and I wouldn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad about it. It was kind of like, I'm still curious, like something's still got my attention as such, you know. And I went and I watched one get up on the platform, and then another one, and then the circle leader at the time was like, do you want to try it? And I was like, I haven't got a clue what to do, you know. And you know, at that time, she just kind of guided me in a very formatted way, you know, like, is it a man or a woman? I was like, it's a woman. And she was like, do you know who it is? And I was like, a wife. And she was like, well, what else is going on? And I was like, well, I know her name's Evelyn. And then she shows me her being a nurse, but then working at a school. And this guy in the circle, you literally feel like the color drained out of him. And he was like, oh my God, my wife's name was Evelyn. She was a nurse and she worked at a school. And I was like, shut up. And it was just free, very quick, very, and I remember like, right, I need to, if that's real, if he's not winding me up, I maybe there's some sort of development there. And I just felt it stagnated at that point. I felt like it was harder than it needed to be.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know, like you know, people talking about it, the journey, their experience, and then me meeting like bigger names and going to places, and it just the idea was like handpicked or you know, just all the things just made it really difficult, and I was just like, surely it's not that hard, you know. And there was always one book that stuck out. I found it in some charity bin or something. I can't remember. It was a Silver Birch book. And he was talking about the simplicity of the spirit world and working with the controls, they call it, don't they, from that time. And everything being simple. And I was like, well, we're not being taught simple. Like
No.
we're being taught like this ritualed kind of way, like you have to do this and you have to do that. And I just started challenging it. And so I found myself sort of like moving through the gears quite quickly, just because I would challenge everything I was told. I just made a pact with myself almost, as if to say, don't believe it until it proves itself, sort of thing, you know. And so every mechanic, like psychic mechanic, mediumship mechanic, energy, and if you know, if someone told me it wasn't possible, I would maybe attempt it to see if I could do it, and it turned out a lot of them were wrong, and there's something you can do.
I think that do you know what? I love that as well, because I think that I think we live in a society now where so many people relinquish their power and you know, sort of hook on to someone, or you know, and I think that way of you challenging people really
it don't make you the most popular person in a room, though.
I can imagine it didn't, Charlie.
Yeah, it kind of. I remember being asked to leave a number of classes because it was like, you're a problem. But I don't believe in contradiction from the spirit world. If Silver Birch is talking about simplicity, then there should be no contradiction. And so in the building of the foundation of a philosophy, everything should make sense. Everything. And where it didn't make sense, I went and researched and tried and, you know, like just worked through it, which then helped me build my own philosophy, my own mechanics, my own way of thinking, etc. So,
how long did this kind of period of sort of development before you became professional go on for?
It was kind of like professional was kind of like a weird turning point for me. It wasn't, again, I didn't want to read and I didn't want to demonstrate. It was, I went to a spiritual church 6 weeks in a row, and all venues, the medium didn't turn up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so like, then I would go with a friend and my friend would be like, yeah, he can do it. And I found that I'd done like 6 dems in 6 weeks, and from the 6 dems I took like 100 bookings, and then the 100 bookings become 200 bookings, and then 200 bookings become 200 a year demonstrations for 10 years, you know. So it wasn't something I wanted to do. It wasn't.
How did you feel that first time? But, you know, it's one thing maybe going up on a platform. It's another thing to have a friend volunteer you.
Yeah,
was that maybe a good thing because you didn't have to build up?
I wouldn't have done it. Yeah, so I wouldn't have done it, and thinking about it I wouldn't have gone. So maybe in hindsight, it was a blessing in disguise, as such. But doing mediumship itself is just like, in my head, it's like a show and tell day. You know, like, look what I found. Look what I found, and you can do it. You can have it. So, and then I would do the evidence to support their people. And then from there, it kind of just worked. Like, people were like, yep, that's exactly who that is.
You strike me as quite fearless, Charlie. Like, I think with a lot of mediums, a lot of people are scared of the big, N-O, the big no. And you strike me as, even in the early days, I get the feeling that never bothered you much.
Not bothered, because it's the problem is with medium mindset is that I have to go and get, and I have to do, and I have to prove. But in my head, I don't. They have to. So if you're her dad, what am I saying? What is it? Because she's saying no to me, and I don't know why she's saying no if I'm saying the thing that you're giving me. So you need to fix that. and then they would give me a different experience, and I would say that, and I'd go, oh yeah, 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 and I'd be like, oh right, cheers, and just get on with it. Because the communication in my head, I want it to be as natural as me and you right now. I don't want to have to drink 2 liters of water a day, and I have to eat everything that's absolutely healthy, and I've got to have 8 hours sleep, and I've got to be perfect. I want to be Charlie, but I want to do a natural communication through, in my opinion, a birthright. It's there for everyone. And so it's just make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, you don't want to be communicating like you got a 1990s pager and you're just getting odd scraps of information.
Or making it like it's painful. Or a lot of mediums look in pain when they work, don't they? They're like, "Are you all right? Like, is everything okay?" The breath changes, and you're like, chill out, like relax into it. It's a moment of magic. You're meant to be enjoying it. And I'm not sure everyone is enjoying it as much as they were enjoying it.
Why do you think that is?
Pressure.
The pressure from the sitter.
No, pressure on self. Pressure on self.
Why do you think people fall down that rabbit hole? Because you make it very simple. Judgment.
I think it's judgment. Yeah, I think I would have put pressure on myself to be right, to be good, to be a good ambassador for a spirit world. And all of those pressures they're there even before I try to make a connection to a spirit world. And so already the backpack's getting heavy, self-critique, judgment, and, what if they don't like me? What if they don't respond? What if they say no? And I haven't even started. And here's this backpack that's already heavy. I think we fall into that trap. I think we spend a tremendous amount of time beating ourselves up in development, and I was one of the worst for it. I know that. Like I'd be launching chairs up the hallway and being really angry. But what made me change that approach was I was working. I think I was in Romford or something like that. And this guy just didn't warm to me, and I accept that. Not everyone likes me. I'm not going to like everyone. That's just human behaviour, And just out of spite, he said no. Just out of spite, and so I was giving him this evidence, and it was his wife, and I'm giving him this evidence, and it was no. Even before I finished my sentence, no. And I was like, oh, okay, that like fourth link of an evening, and this one's just gone completely wrong or whatever. But I didn't budge. It was like, why would I get 3 absolutely pinpoint accurate and then that one go wrong? It just wouldn't happen. So something's not right. I'll look at it later. 6 months have passed, and I was back at Romford. And this guy made his way out into the audience again. Took him a couple of buses to get there and what have you. And he waited till after the dem, and he come out to the car. And he said to me, I haven't slept for 6 months. And I said to him, what do you mean? And he said, I was really horrible to you. And I said, no, just because I didn't like you. But the evidence that you gave me, was so my wife, that my conscience hasn't let me sleep for 6 months. I feel like she's told me, you need to go and tell him, he was right, you need to. And I said to him, I don't worry about it. It's like, that's the least of my worries, trying to do a mediumship development.
The funny thing was, he told you that, and you've probably thought in your mind, well, yes, of course I knew it was right. That was what was frustrating me.
Yeah, you sound a bit arrogant when you do that, though, don't you? So you kind of like, oh, well, it is what it is. But at that point, it was kind of like I realised, I know I would have gone home and I would have been screaming and shouting at myself and the team, and that, why are you messing it up? And they didn't mess it up. And I just realized, how many times have I done that to myself? And it may just be a simple mistake, a simple error, that has been misinterpreted, or that whatever their reasons are for saying no, or whatever. So I started to ease up on the 1% I was getting wrong, and maybe give it a thought, but maybe put my focus on the 99% that was right. And it just, what I found was it let me. I always talk about like ingredients, like baking a cake for the spirit world. They want to bake this communication. I just found the ingredients were purer and better because my focus was on a more positive attribute than a negative one, that my consistency just went through the roof. And it was just because I wasn't being so hard on myself all of the time. And I think that you need a little bit of striving, motivation, the dangling carrot that we spoke about.
Oh, that dangling carrot, Charlie.
Yeah.
It's played me as well. Because I'm trying to develop my mediumship, but I had the biggest carrot dangled to me ever the first time I linked with spirit, and it seemed so easy. I thought, oh God, this is just, honestly, all I need to do is turn my switch on. And then I went back to reality and it was really hard. One thing I found about mediumship so far is it puts an absolute floodlight on areas of your life where you're not living, perhaps. So it's put a big spotlight on my relationship with alcohol. It did. Then it put a spotlight on my relationship with just so many things. Obviously straight away, you answered, but that's affected you. What was the journey like for you
I recognize the responsibility that a medium carries, and the responsibility that goes with the words, the power of my words to a client. When they place you on a pedestal, it was like, this is a big responsibility, and they're coming for like direction, guidance, whatever it'll be. And I was very aware of that responsibility. I was also aware that I was ignorant to a lot of my own issues or my own behaviors, my own actions, and so I felt like a bit of a hypocrite, like to be able to say to you, look, you need to stop drinking. You need to sort your traumas out. I felt like a bit of a hypocrite doing that. So I was like, you know what? I need to go on a journey of reflection, like, who am I? And you find a lot you don't like, a tremendous amount that you don't like. And I was just honest with myself. It was like, right, I'm going to have to work through this. I'm going to have to start going through it piece by piece. And like, how do I react? So if you're rude to me, my second nature response was be rude back. Like, how dare you?
Yes.
And now I'm not so much like that now. It's kind of like I'm trying to understand who you are. And maybe you feel comfortable that you can show a side of yourself, a state of anger, in my company, that you feel safe enough that you can do that. Or maybe you're having a terrible day and your disciplines have they're out the window. And it may be the best thing is not to retaliate, but say, are you okay? Is everything all right? And that changed my behavior towards other people's behavior. I wanted it more from an understanding point of view. And then I found myself, I love people watching, like a new hobby. It was like, oh, I like this. Like, where's their mind at? What are they doing? And I just found that I got interested in behavior, actions and behavior. So, which that then made me question my own actions, my own behavior, and slowly I could chip away at fixing them.
Does it still continue to challenge you a lot, mediumship, in, those kind of challenging aspects of your life, trying to always be, well, not this perfect person, because none of us are, but trying to live this life that allows you to give, honest and heartfelt advice to other people, or meetings or so on?
I don't think we'll ever get to the end of it, certainly early on. One question gave me 10 more questions, so I'd get one answer and it would open up all these other doorways. So I think the evolvement there on a spiritual development, not necessarily a mediumistic one, but just made me question more and, think about my behavior more. I think if there's one golden nugget that I've picked up out of all of that, is that in my reality, I'm a main character and you are but an extra. but in your story, you are a main character and I'm the extra. And I realized I'm not as important as I like to think I was. And that made me sort of like dissolve the ego in a way that allowed me not to be the biggest part of the dynamic between client and communicator. Like these two
Mm.
want to be joined together. So that was like massive. And I realized that like people's behavior and actions just in their daily life is because they are the main character of their story, and it is impacting them and their world is imploding and, they need help
Mm.
right now. It don't
One
need,
thing I noticed from your YouTube videos is you're very, very good at analogies.
yeah.
I've come to notice that.
I try to make it daily. So stuff that you recognize daily, I just like, well, that's like that. So
Mm.
it's one of those.
What common misconceptions do you want to debunk that you maybe get from students or people? What things, really peeve you off about mediumship that you...
Mechanically, I think them not taking it away is one of the most frustrating bits. They keep showing me that I can't change it, and that's not the spirit world. That's focus. Your focus has been captured by the car that the client can't take. And you can't handle the no, so your focus is there. And why did they show me a car that you'll forever be aware of the car? Because that's where your focus is. So if you move your focus back to the communicator, the information will change and your reading will just continue as it was. It would have been perfect. Such a simple process in what it is. The overall aspects of mediumship, like no one's busy. No one. Everyone is available in that exact moment. That is our philosophy as a spiritualist.
Yeah.
It's oneness. It's an omnipresence. They are there. No one's walking a spirit dog to the spirit supermarket or doing a spirit job. It's available. It's energy. It's consciousness. And so that availability means that if I can't find it, it's my awareness that can't find it, not that they don't want to turn up. I really looked into that because I didn't receive communication from my sister via a medium for 10 years. And
that was hard.
It was hard, but more frustrating because they always brought through my gran that I didn't get on with. And so I was like, where's my sister? Like, where is she? And then when I was learning mediumship, I realized like, it's so easy to go, oh, there's a grandma there. Or who's this 18-year-old girl? Oh, that feels a bit touchy. I'll go with the grandma.
Yeah.
And so I realized it's not what the spirit world want. It's what the medium feels safe with. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I wanted to get the person to heal you, which means maybe I've got to be uncomfortable for 30 minutes. But I'm cool with that. That's service, isn't it? So a lot of people that are like, give me your name, give me your age, give me your passing, give me your occupation, give me is saying, I'll serve you if you fulfill my criteria.
My checklist.
Well, that's not service, is it? That's under contract.
No, it doesn't feel very natural. It doesn't feel,
it's not.
It doesn't feel.
The one memory I never ever want again is 45 minutes of CPR trying to save my sister's life. And the first thing formatted mediums go for in the first 3 statements is the passing. And I don't want it.
Yeah. And I guess when you get a loved one, the last thing you want to do is go to the saddest point of what you remember.
I want to remember when she wound me up and made me laugh, and
like
that personality of her being in the room is like that can't fit in a box. Like my person, take my sister for example, as an 18-year-old girl, should never sound like a communication that's coming forward for you.
No.
Your relationship and your loved ones are worlds, and they're so unique. The communication should sound so unique.
It should,
but it's kind of got this like monotone way to it. It's kind of like you've heard one, you've heard them all. It's kind of, and it just that really frustrated me.
Did you get the reading eventually with your sister?
10 years. It was 10
10
years
years
after, yeah. And it was, I think it was only because that medium that I was watching had lost someone young, that they were, their
Right.
awareness was freer in the young people than it was, you know, in the mediums that had been doing baking nanas for the last 25 years on circuit. So
I wanted to, obviously, I'm not going to delve too much into the mechanics of mediumship because you've got a number of, loads and loads of videos that go into that. But touching on it briefly, you mentioned at the start, you know, roots in the ground, white lights around you. What, very simply, is it someone needs to do to connect or feel spirit?
very well, you've got to understand where your mind is. You know, you won't get someone being able to express that's got no interest in it. So the interest has to be there to communicate. The hardest thing to do is speak. That's the hardest bit. So if you're trying to learn any kind of mediumship, you first need to learn expression. So what will happen is you'll hear a medium not very early on, but throughout their development go, I don't know why, but you do know why, because your mind's gone to a communicator. So you do, that bloody thing, I can't turn it off. But it's like, I don't know why, but I'm thinking of the garden, but I don't have a garden. And immediately, you know, it's the man that's making you think about the garden, you know. So they're really hesitant to speak about it. Like you've got to express. And very quickly, it's like learning, I don't know, Spanish. I would learn very basic Spanish and it would be textbook stuff. But when you actually go to Spain, it don't really work too well. And, you know, you need to spend 6 months locally to pick up the local lingo, don't you?
You do.
Mediumship's very much like that. It's a language of energy. And I've got to learn that I'm going to fumble on my words sometimes, but I'll get there and I'll get through it. And after 6 months of localizing myself with the language of energy, it just becomes quicker and more. The trust aspect has to be there. Like it will go from garden to whatever it is next that you know about. So if I'm working with a man for you and it was garden, but then he wants to take me to the railway station, the problem is with the human mind is like, well, how did we get from the garden to the train station? What's the connection? But you, the client, don't need a connection. In the man that you're thinking of with his garden, there's a memory with the train station, and memory. Mediums have this weird thing where they try and understand the context of you, the client, and the context of a man that I'm meeting for the first time. And it doesn't work. So I always use this story. It's a great story. And I was doing the garden one year, and I tried everything, and I'm really, maybe it don't come across, but I'm quite into like giving the bees the safest home they can. I'll have a wild.
Oh, I can imagine that, Charlie. You know, I can imagine that.
I've got all that set out, but this one year, these brambles were like, they were growing at like half an acre a month. It was just like, I needed to use a chemical. So I got the most powerful chemical you could get, to help me with these brambles. My partner's gone down to the hair salon, get her hair all done, you know, as they do, and they're getting it done. And I said to her, well, I'll be up the back doing this, like, just shout when you get home. And I timed it perfect. So I've got this big spray gun, and it needs to go on your back, and you go and spray it. And, you know, I waited till June or something till the queen bees had moved and whatever. And I'm up there and I'm pumping. And my partner walks around the corner and this spray canister exploded. But it didn't explode like everywhere. It was just like a slit, and this slit just hit her hair that she's just got out of the salon from. And I was laughing so hard, honestly. And I'm trying to say to her, go and wash your hair because there'll be no hair tomorrow. That's going to burn it all out, you know.
I bet
Now,
you was in trouble that day, Charlie.
oh yeah, it was quite a moment.
In the doghouse for at least a couple of days for that one.
But I also thought to myself, now, if I was to go back to the spirit world at any time soon, that is one memory between me and my partner that even today we would giggle about. We would laugh about that. Now, to get that story through a medium's mind, I'd have to say to you, right, listen to me, I'll make you look amazing. So I need you to talk about a spray can. And you as the medium would be like, a spray can? What about a spray can? And then I would have to say, then I'd have to show you maybe an explosion. So I'll give you like a Hollywood style explosion. So I need to say spray can, and now he wants me to talk about an explosion. Now I need to say hair. Now to my client, they'll be like, oh my God. But you'll be like, what?
This makes no sense.
Makes no sense. But it's not for you.
Yeah.
It's for the client.
And I guess that's where a lot of mediums fall down, because they think they need to understand it in order to
know what it is. Yeah. And so I realized once I had teachers throughout my way, they were trying to make me understand it. And I was like, but that's not going to work. Like, well, it will work, but I want it better than that. I want my clients falling off their chair with, how did you do that? Is what I wanted. And that is when I started to change the dating point of mediumship and me being irrelevant and me becoming a spiritual Amazon Prime driver. Here's your box. Here's your box. Here's your box. So I need to say spray can. You understand that? Maybe. Need to talk about an explosion as well. Oh, right. Now he wants me to say hair. Oh, my God. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I will then get the gold nugget that I crave so much for them and the client. You'll never get it with a format. You'll never get it. Doesn't
with
work.
the spirit world then. So they are leveraging always because this is where I guess this gets quite complicated. So they're only using your thoughts and memories.
No, I don't think they are.
Okay. The question I've got, right, so you get a spirit person who speaks a different language, who's lived in a totally different setting to you, in a different... How are they going to communicate with you?
Well, it's like, I try and get like more advanced mediums to sort of like work with it. So dependent on stage of development, there will be this idea that I will be restricted to the English language. But that kind of got blown out the water when I went to Italy and I spoke Italian from someone. I was like, I don't know what these words are, but I want to say this, which was something to do. It was a relationship that was like almost forbidden in Italy. It's very old school in Italy. And it was a man and a man, but it was a secret relationship. And I said something in Italian that said, you'll always be my man love or something like that. But in perfect spoken Italian. And I was like, I don't know what these words are there, but I don't own that. So I had to look at that. Like, how did I do that? Like, it's not even my language. And I'm not interested in learning another language. That's English people for you, isn't it? But
well, I'm the same. I'm still mastering the English language.
My English is terrible. Like, I'm definitely not going to learn another one, you know? So in the process of mediumship, I realized that they're not banging on my head day in, day out saying, talk for me, talk for me. I go there, don't I? I go to them. So like, okay, let me go get your communicator. So I'm going to them. So am I not restricted to their mind, their language, their culture? And that just freed everything up immediately. So
That's
it was
really
like,
interesting.
yeah, well, we are going to them, aren't we? So go get a communicator is you going to get a communicator. So you're restricted to their mind, their thoughts, their personality, their actions, their behavior is why I feel frustrated when I'm working with a violent man. because I'm not a violent man, and now I've got this violence about me. But I went
Mm.
to him, and so I'm feeling his violence. I'm feeling his anger. I'm feeling his stubbornness. I'm
Mm.
feeling his charm, and his. I'm going to them. They're not coming to me.
Do you ever do trance mediumship?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always find that really interesting as well. Do you find that do you have a certain type of mediumship that you prefer, or is it just more sort of what
I
people?
like for a personal level, I like trance. I like trance, but I think it's more philosophical in the experiences that I've had with trance. Like the bulk of my trance would have been around people like Tim Abbott, Sheila French,
Mhm.
and I built up wonderful relationships with their guides and what have you. And it was all philosophical, and it was just for personally, I loved it. I think it's a bit addictive, to be fair, in that sense. Mental mediumship, evidential mediumship is purely the selfless part that let me help you connect with this person. And I feel like the third wheel a little bit, you know, like here's your mum, there you go, have your moment. Here's your partner, have your moment. Have your moment. But I feel like a little bit of a third wheel. So if it's personal, I love trance. I absolutely love it. Um, but for the service aspect, the giving back, the doing what I can, then I don't think there's like a better feeling than helping someone through their trauma, of
Hmm.
the loss of a
Hmm.
loved one. So it depends where we're placing it. So
What other than what sort of roles do you feel that mediumship? Um, what do you think its purpose is? Do you think it just is a healing modality, or when
oh,
you're
yeah.
bringing people together? I'm just wondering what.
The most simplistic answer is accountability. It's accountability. If I can communicate with people there,
Mhm.
evidentially, I've never met them, and I can give some like real hard on facts with certain things and stuff that I couldn't possibly know. That removes that element of doubt that there isn't anything. So if there is something, if there is something else, then accountability for the man that you chose to be today, you're accountable. You're accountable
Mm.
no matter what. Now, if I can in some way get that message out there that you know all of that is accountable, you know that, right? We wouldn't be greedy. We wouldn't be selfish. We wouldn't be harming other individuals. We wouldn't be going to war. We wouldn't be. I mean, the list is endless because you're accountable, and that in itself would change the way people hide behind words or hide behind a mask as such. And it will allow you to be a lot freer. We would be very different if we all categorically knew 100% that this is just a moment. Life is just
Mm.
but a moment, and it goes on. It goes beyond this. I don't think we would offer deceit or manipulation and greed, and I
Mm.
don't think we would have that because we would know, like, I'm not getting away with that. So for me, the law is perfect. Everything's accountable.
What's it like living your life being a full-time medium, traveling all over the place doing readings? How do because I don't do that. I have I say normal job. What's it like being a full-time medium? How
I've
do you
done.
keep yourself in check and stuff?
Yeah, I've done both. I've done like
Hmm.
I would work silly hours for a company and whatever, you know, and then I've got this life. The problem is like the awareness. You just change as an individual. You change. I mean, I don't know how other full-time mediums are doing it or how they approach it. But I am just Charlie. I am just Charlie. I'm an idiot during the day, but when it comes to work, then work's work, and it's my passion, and I do everything I can for the communicator or slash spirit world, you know. But it just becomes every day. So energy reading, it's not something I have to think about. The energy is just talking to me all the time, all the time. So it's more of a state of hypersensitivity just for bigger periods of time, maybe. But when I'm not working, I leave my office and I leave my stage and I leave my, whatever it is, then that allows me to be the idiot. It allows me to do that. So, and I think you need to do that. I think there is you need to address an ego. The reality is every person has an ego, every single one. Like even the ones that say they don't have one, they've got one.
I didn't think I had a big one, but it turns out it's mahoosive, Charlie.
So I treat it like a family dog. It needs watering, it needs nurturing, it needs letting out. You need to run it around the field sometimes. But what that does is it creates a discipline. So when it needs to go back in its crate, it goes in its crate when I'm working for the spirit world, so I can sort of suppress it in that moment. So mediumship for me is a dissolving of one's identity, me, for the duration of the dem, the read, whatever. And then straight after it, it's allowed back. My identity's allowed back. So it's just a dissolving of one's importance.
What do you mentioned earlier, sort of, we talked lightheartedly about rituals. What do you do to keep yourself healthy and in check and be this clear vessel and communicator for the spirit world? What's your kind of, what do you do to keep it?
I don't like make it like a regime or anything like that. So like I smoke. And I've always smoked, it was just one of those things from the dark days of, marijuana and what have you. The only thing I could do to get away from it was smoke a cigarette, and it was like the lesser of two evils, So from a very colourful childhood into adulthood. So I don't think them things impacts it. I mean, I'm not saying like exercise and regular keeping up with the your body in its prime state won't help it, but it is the mind. Everything's the mind, the mindset towards everything, your attitude towards it, and the drive in moving forward. Everything is mindset and mediumship. Whatever you think, you're right, and no matter what I say, will change that. So that's like you saying, I intend to be a good medium today. But if it deep down inside you feel like
it's a load of bollocks,
it's just not happening today, then that will override any intention you set. So it's mindset. So I need to pick the bones at who are you and how do you feel about yourself? And the moment I tidy that up, instant improvement, instant. The results will change. So it's like, I'll say to you, go grab a communicator and try and get whatever, is door number. That in your mind, you feel like, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? How am I going to get it? Should I do a remote view? Will he show me a number? And I recognize in mediumship that if I'm thinking about a number, like you're thinking about a number now, your brain gives you a number. Yeah. And so that's no good. That's no good for me, because my brain's going to be like, Charlie, I've got this. Don't worry about it. We don't need to go to a spirit world to get that answer. The answer's 71. And then you offer it, don't you, to the client? They're like, no. And so my mind is, I know he knows. So I've just got to ask him.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to do. I've just got to ask him. And that blows my mind when someone's like, oh, I got a name in the spirit world. Oh my God, I got a name. That's like me saying, do you know your name? You know your full name?
Just about, Charlie, on a good day.
And then we all give you a round of applause because you tell everyone it. Like, yay, he's got it today. Well done, you. It's mental. Absolutely great. They know everything I need, they have got.
It goes back to that tick box thing, though, doesn't it? Because, it goes back to that. I want to come on to the YouTube channel then, because I think what you do on there is absolutely amazing. And do you know what? It comes across so heartfelt and from such a good place. So my first question, how did it even come about? What made you decide to start doing this?
I don't really remember. I remember having the idea, like, maybe this is the problem is, like, in all honesty, I really don't want to offend anyone that's listening. I just got fed up wasting thousands of pounds on stuff that just didn't help. Like I'm not like I don't know what my certificates cost me. 25 grand for
Blimey.
for my CSNU. So what's that? 4 residentials a year you have to do for 2 years, but you can't do that for 2 years until you've done your pass, which is 25 dems. So that's another
Oh,
4
wow.
residentials. So that's 12 residentials plus the board, plus the travel, plus the. I think it racked up to 25 grand.
I didn't realise it was that much
Yeah, it was really
commitment
big.
and investment.
Yeah, it's like madness, absolute madness, the money. But it don't stop there, does it? You do workshops and masterclasses.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I was like, very little movement or contradiction, or that I just thought, you know what? I was really lucky where someone saw good in me doing or changing my life around. And they were like, if you carry on that path, I'll pick up your tab. I'll pay for it. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I felt like I'm wasting someone else's money.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just thought, you know what? I don't, because it's hard, isn't it? People really struggle and you're putting like £5 in a jar and you're trying to get your fee like together.
Yeah.
And I just don't want people wasting money on stuff that's like irrelevant, like completely irrelevant, like things like intention. You'll see 20 workshops, go online, you'll see 20 workshops about setting the intention. It shouldn't be called that. It should be like clearing up the mindset, like loving you. Let's find out who you are.
Yeah, I've been on a good few courses now, and sometimes I get to the end of them and I come away and I think, what the bloody have I learned? Because I don't feel like I've advanced any further. I come away from it and I think, it was a great experience, but what did I take from it? Because my brain doesn't work A, B, C, D, E. I'm A, B, C, X, Y, Z. I'm not very good at sitting in. I'm a fidget at the best of the times, and I'm not good at sitting in workshops.
But I think it's recognizing that. I think it's like play to your strengths. Like it's not. I don't want you being another version of me. The world already has enough of me. I'm me. Let's show the world you. Do you know what I mean? And so It's about getting the best skill set available with the mind that you're offering. And if I can clear that up in any way, shape, or form, then it's only going to offer betterment. You're going to be quicker. You're going to be more accurate. You're going to be more consistent. What I personally didn't like about some of it is that you could pluck any name out of the air from any famous school or whatever, but you found there was like a mimic. It was almost like, oh, you must have worked with because you sound just like them. Their style, their mannerism.
Yes.
And there would be this like emulation of their favorite tutor or something like that. And I don't think that's a compliment. I would be more supplied if people were trying to be me. Like you are as valuable as me, and show the world you. Like, let's get the best out of you. And you'll have your own way and your own style, but what we need is evidence. You need to be good at evidence. We need to be good at moving. So if we've got a problem, let's move, not ram it down their throat in a passive aggressive way and saying, go ring your second cousin because they'll know about it, and give them a black bag full of information to leave with. It should be validated there and then. They're going to talk about this. If not, let me ask why not, and then go back and fix it. And then they'll say yes. It's just clean and precise, and it gives this standard and quality back to mediumship in a time of live feeds and TikTok and channeling scarab rituals from ancient Egypt. And it's just the values just being rinsed out of it. And it's like you need people to sort of like hold that line, hold the line of like, this is incredible. This is evidence. There's a standard. There's a, and from there, it's like, you'll be your best version. I'll be my best version. That'll be not you be a diluted version of my style. That doesn't make sense. So I'd have to handle you differently to someone else. And some
Yeah.
teachers don't do that. They're like, this is how it is. This is how it should be. This is what you must do. You must understand it. And you just feel like you're going over the same thing again and again and again with no benefit.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because even doing this podcast, I have I have noticed that I have managed to sometimes tell who was a mentor to someone else because of the style. And I have come across that myself. Has the YouTube channel surprised you in any way? Has it? Because you've obviously got a lot of people looking at these videos.
Yeah, I don't know, like on YouTube itself, if I don't know the apps, off the top of my head, you've caught me a little bit off guard, but 57 million searches a month on mediums.
Oh, wow.
57 million.
Wouldn't have thought it would be that much.
Exactly. So it's a lot of searching, isn't it? And I don't think my numbers reflect 57 million a month searching that. So it takes a long time to do editing. It takes a long time to sort of like get all the videos up and running. Like I've done something like 350 videos, and then I took a mass break. I moved around the country, and I'm sort of getting back up. I've got a full studio where I am now, and I'm ready. I've got 2 very high quality cinema cameras, and I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to go again. So. But what holds me back is the numbers. It's kind of like it's a tremendous effort, but it's like the people that find it. I think they find it for the right reason. Like they've been burnt, or there's a lot of fluff, and they're fed up with the fluff, and they're fed up with this kind of stuff. But the ones that want I don't know how they say it, the non BS version of it is kind of like the pocket's a lot smaller in that sense. So numbers, they're okay, but I think it should be a lot higher, in my opinion.
Well, Charlie, I'm very much inclined to agree with you, and I love your channel and your videos. I think they are amazing, and anyone listening to this who hasn't had a look should check it out. I always ask, do you know what? I can't even believe it's been an hour, Charlie. I could
Really?
go for another hour.
Oh my
I could
God.
go for another hour, but I won't make you do that. I always normally ask guests to like leave on a final thought, a pearl of wisdom, something to leave us on at the end of the show, and I want to invite you to do that as well.
To do that as a final thought, I think.
As a final thought, yes.
I think it's more about, without it sounding all air and fairy, is clean up that train of thought, the idea. Seek and you shall find. If you're feeling a bit under the weather, and then you seek that you're feeling a bit under the weather and you feel worse for it. So it's cleaning up the idea, clean up the ideas. And those that are out on a spiritual journey, or certainly a medium mystic one, maybe clean up those ideas of not worthiness, or I'm not good enough, to why not you? You could be amazing, and that sort of stuff. Then you'll notice an instant kind of change there. I mean, I like where I am in my own life now, where I'm important in my own story, but I'm not important in my client and communicator story. They just want a bridge, and I'm their bridge, aren't I? So I think like attracts like, seek and you shall find, and you will find where maybe you hold yourself back. Like there's almost this idea of, I'm just not that good. I can't make it. I won't do it, when you can. If I can, anyone can, trust me. So
well, thank you.
Everyone can make it. So yeah.
I love that. Well, if you want to find out more about Charlie, just go to the show notes, and all his website and YouTube will be there. But all I can say, Charlie, is thank you so much. I love talking to you.
I like that we finally got there in the end. We
did. Oh, well, we had a right. So anyone listening to this, we had a right draft. We came on to do this last week, and my internet wasn't working, and it was dropping out. And I thought to myself, that's it. It's a disaster, but we got there in the end. So thank you.
Yeah, it's finally nice to get it done. So thanks for having me.
Well, there we go. Wasn't that a wonderful conversation? I must admit, it was quite surreal actually speaking to Charlie, because I've spent countless hours watching his YouTube videos. I tend to find my normal time of watching them is about 10 o'clock at night, because I used to watch the news, but now I never watch the news because it just depresses me. I can't even have it on. So Charlie Kelly has probably become a bit of my replacement, actually. And if you haven't gone on his channel, do check it out, because his videos, well, they really resonate with me, but I think he speaks in a language where he just keeps things very, very simple. So I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of the Soul Sync podcast. If you want to stay in the loop with this podcast, it's really easy. Simply hit the follow show button wherever you listen to your favourite podcast. And if you do enjoy the Soul Sync, I'd really appreciate if you could leave me a review, because they really do help other people to find the podcast. If you want to get involved with the conversation, obviously there's the Facebook community group. I love it there. I love hearing your comments and hearing from all of you lovely listeners. Just go to the show notes where you'll find all the details for that. And what else was I going to say now? I've totally lost my train of thought. Oh, of course, if you want to get involved in the Soul Sync podcast, you might have a guest suggestion. Just drop me a line on my email address really briefly. It's hello@jasonpaulmedium.com. I'm Jason Paul. You've been listening to the Soul Sync. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and until next time, goodbye.